Hi, this is Diane Dietrich of C3D, and today's SketchUp Quick Tip, we're going to talk about components, or more specifically, what to do when the components in your real-world project don't have exact replicas in the 3D warehouse, which they almost never do. So we're going to look at how to take basic components that you can find and how to start to alter them, change their colors, change their proportions to more closely match the things that you're trying to use in the real world. We're going to start with a simple example. We're just going to take a light fixture that we find in the 3D warehouse and make it fit our space a little better. So I'm going to search for the elegantly named CP4700, which is this Trundle ceiling pendant by Gauge. Thank you, Gauge. And we're going to download it directly into our model. So first of all, you see it comes in as many components do, with the SketchUp guy or gal still attached to them. So to get rid of him, we're going to right-click and pick Explode, which just separates your SketchUp component down to its next level of organization, which is the lamp that we want, the guy that we don't. Sorry. So we're going to pick him and delete him, and what we have left is the lamp that we started trying to work with. So our end goal is to put this lamp above this island. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to center the lamp on the table, and then we're going to start scaling it and doing some other changes to it to fit. So I'm going to go to the top view to more easily do this. I'm going to select the top of the room to get out of the way, and I'm going to right click and I'm just going to hide it for now. We could also put it on a separate layer if we're going to take it on and off repeatedly, but we're just going to do this quickly today. So another thing that you can do when you're centering things is to change your camera perspective from the normal perspective default to parallel projection, which is an orthographic view. That way it's easier to center things. I'm also just going to take some quick lines from midpoint to midpoint so that we know exactly where the center of this table is. Or if it wasn't that exact, you could eyeball it. Then I'm going to take my component and I'm going to move it right over to the center of the table. If I wanted to, I could pick the middle endpoint and move that to the middle endpoint. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines that are extra. And then I'm going to go back to my front view that I had a scene set up earlier. So it's great. It's right in the middle. Unfortunately, it's not exactly at the height that we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it. I'm going to move from the endpoint of the component, and I'm going to move up. I'm going to look for that little pop-up that tells me I'm moving on the blue axis, so I know I'm going exactly straight up and down. Once it starts going on the blue axis, you can hold down the Shift key, and then you can't move it anywhere else. It can only go straight up and down. And since I'm moving from this endpoint, when I hit the ceiling, I should get this little pop-up that tells me constrained on line, intersect plane, and now I know I'm exactly on the ceiling plane. So when you start looking at components to see if you can edit them, you kind of need to look and see how they were constructed. So we're going to go ahead, and just so I can focus on this and get rid of everything in behind, and so I can rotate and move around it easily, I'm going to go to View, Component Edit, and I'm going to check Hide Rest of Model. And then when I double click on this lamp to edit it, everything else magically goes away, and I have full reign to move all around this component, which can be really helpful. So first of all, when I look at this component, I see that it's basically made up of 3 parts, which is great because it means that we can edit and change each of these individually. So right now this lampshade itself is too small for the space that we're going to put it in, so I want to make it bigger. So I'm going to hit S for scale, or else over here I can choose the scale tool, but S is a great shortcut. And if I go from corner to corner, I'm going to change the scale of everything. But if I just start from one corner, you see what happens is that it's not scaling around the center, meaning I'm getting farther and farther from my center point the farther I go. So I'm going to undo that. And this time when I scale, I'm going to use Control with it. And if you forget, here's a little reminder down here. It says Control About Center. So with scale still selected, I'm going to hold on Control. And this time when I scale it, you see it's going to uniformly make it bigger, but it's going to keep it centered around that same point. So I want to change this gold to a green to more closely match the pennant that I'm going to use. So I need to edit it. So I'm going to double click until I get down that the material that I want to change is highlighted. So I've dug down into the various groups and layers that this person used until I finally get down to the bottom texture layer. So I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool and pick a green. And if you're on a Mac, this tool looks slightly different. You can pick from any of the color choices that you have on the top of your material palette. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to paint it on just that section, so just the gold turns to green. And then I'm going to click outside to finish. Okay, I'm going to click outside to close it again, and now my lampshade figure is back in my room. So it's also way too high above the table. So I want to, again, make this line in the center of the table. I could have left it from before. And I'm going to use my tape measure tool to measure up. And again, I'm looking for that blue line so that I'm going straight up. And I want this lamp fixture to be 2 feet off the table. So this time when I go to edit the lamp, I don't want the rest of the room to go away because I need to see my reference line. So I'm going to go back to View, Component Edit, and uncheck Hide Rest of Model. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the lampshade again, and I'm going to move, and again I want to make sure I'm moving in the blue axis until I hit the line. And it'd be better to move from this bottom so I know when I get on the construction line itself. And I'm going to click outside to close. And I can go ahead and erase the tape line. Now I need to make the cord come down to match, to make sure it's long enough. And if I zoom in and look on this cord, you'll see that while everything else is nicely grouped in this model, that's a group, this is a group, the cord, for some reason, is not a group. But that's okay, we can make it a group ourselves. So I'm going to make a selection box from right to left around part of the cord. So if you remember, when you make a selection box from right to left, anything that's even partially inside the box is going to be selected. So now this whole cord is selected, all the pieces and the planes and the lines that made it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Make Group. And now the cord is a group that I can manipulate. So you have two choices. You could either select the cord and you could use the scale tool to make it longer. And this is one of those tricky ones where you need to zoom in close enough to make sure that I'm going to go back and back to get back to a view, to make sure that you get on the handle, which is the little green and red boxes, is exactly in the middle. If I start scaling from the edge, just like when we scaled the whole lampshade bigger, the whole thing is going to get bigger uniformly, but we just want to move it in one direction. So I want to make sure I'm on the red box that's exactly in the middle of this plane, and that's only going to move it in one direction. Whoops. The other option, let me show you that again, it should move it in one direction. The other option, I'm going to do Control Z, is if I double click on this to get back to just the face, then I can also use the push-pull tool to pull it down until I hit the top of my lampshade. And then I'm going to close the group. So now if I go back to my front view, I'll see that my lampshade is the size that I want it, and it's positioned at the correct height above the table, and it's the right color that I want. So with a few quick steps, once you get used to making these changes, you can take a kind of okay component and quickly make it your own.